What would you do if your name was a crime? What would you do if every document that proved you existed had been destroyed? If the country that made you had decided you were subhuman and every other country on Earth had simply looked away? Dr. Ravik doesn't ask these questions. He stopped asking them a long time ago. He already knows the answers. He is a ghost. He performs surgery on men who earn credit for his work. He lives in a refugee hotel where nobody uses their real name. He drinks Calvados until the nights get shorter. He survives. And then, one wet November night, he makes the single mistake that will unravel everything he has built from nothing. He stops. He stops for a woman sitting alone on a bridge. This is the story Erich Maria Remarque wrote after fleeing Nazi Germany. A story the Nazis burned. A story about what it means to love something, anything, when you no longer believe you have the right to exist. Stay with me, because this book will break something in you. And I think that's exactly the point. Paris, 1939. The city of light, but the light is going out. Across the border, Hitler is remaking the world in his image. And the people who refuse to be remade, the Jews, the intellectuals, the doctors, the writers, the resistors, they are flooding into France by the thousands, stateless, paperless, invisible. Remarque knew this world because he lived in it. He was the author of All Quiet on the Western Front, one of the greatest anti-war novels ever written. The Nazis hated him for it. They burned his books. They revoked his citizenship. They would later execute his sister, in part, the court said, because she was related to him. He wrote Arc de Triomphe in exile, in New York, in grief, and he poured into it every refugee he had ever met, every humiliation he had ever witnessed, every moment of bureaucratic cruelty dressed up as procedure. The novel setting, Paris, 1939, is not backdrop. It is a countdown clock. The reader knows what the characters don't yet fully believe, that this city, this fragile sanctuary, has less than a year left. And into this world, Remarque drops his protagonist. No first name, no country, no papers. Just a surname, Ravik, and a pair of hands that can save lives. Let's talk about Ravik, because he is one of the most fascinating, most tragic, most quietly furious characters in all of 20th century literature. He is a German surgeon, brilliant, methodical, precise. Before the war, he was someone. He had a name, a practice, a life. He had a woman he loved. And then the Gestapo came. We learned this in fragments, the way trauma always surfaces, slowly, sideways, in the middle of the night. In Paris, Ravik works as a ghost surgeon. A French doctor named Weber takes the credit, shares a cut of the fee, and everyone looks the other way. It is humiliating. It is also the only reason Ravik can eat. He has been arrested and deported twice already. Each time, he crosses back into France under a new name. The French authorities know. They don't particularly care. As long as he stays invisible, stays quiet, doesn't cause problems. The machine tolerates him. He has adapted to invisibility. He has made it a kind of armor. He drinks. Not to forget. Ravik is too honest for that. He drinks because alcohol is the only thing that turns the volume down on a mind that never stops working, never stops remembering. And then there is Hak. Hak is the Gestapo officer who tortured him, who tortured the woman Ravik loved until she died, who does not know that the ghost he created is walking the same Parisian streets, eating in the same restaurants, breathing the same night air. Ravik has not forgotten Hak. He has simply been waiting. This is the slow fire burning under everything in this novel. Not if Ravik will act, but when, and what it will cost him. But first, Joan Madu. Ravik finds her on a bridge, half out of her mind with grief, standing over the body of a man she loved, who has just died. He doesn't fall for her immediately. He is a doctor. He assesses, stabilizes, acts. He takes her back to her hotel. He stays until morning. He leaves. He thinks that's the end of it. It isn't. Joan is an actress, or trying to be. She is luminous, impulsive, electric, and fundamentally unknowable. She tells different versions of her past depending on her mood. She is warm and then cold, present and then absent, cruel in the way that only people who are deeply frightened can be cruel. She is, in other words, alive in a way that Ravik has spent years trying not to be. Their relationship is the emotional core of this novel. And Remarque, who knew something about impossible love, writes it with merciless honesty. This is not a romance. It is not a love story in the comfortable sense. It is something rawer. Two damaged people colliding in a city on the edge of catastrophe, each one offering the other something they cannot afford to want. Joan offers Ravik the terrifying possibility of feeling human again. Ravik offers Joan the one thing she actually needs but will never admit to needing: someone who sees her clearly and stays anyway. But here is the thing Remarque understands, and what makes this book so devastating. Loving someone is not enough. Staying is not enough. When the world is structured to destroy you, even your tenderness becomes a liability. Because Ravik has no papers, he cannot stay in Paris legally. He cannot plan a future. He cannot make promises. Every day he exists in this city is borrowed time. And Joan, who lives entirely in the present, cannot understand why the man she loves keeps one foot always pointed toward the door. And now I want to talk about the title, because Remarque did not name this book carelessly. The Arc de Triomphe, the Arch of Triumph. It stands at the top of the Champs-Élysées, surrounded by 12 avenues, radiating outward like the spokes of a wheel. It is a monument to military victory, to the glory of France. But look at what stands beneath it: the tomb of the unknown soldier, the eternal flame burning for those who died without names, without recognition, without triumph. Ravik passes the Arc de Triomphe regularly. He barely notices it. And then sometimes, in certain moods, at certain hours, he stops and stares at it. Because he is the unknown soldier. He is the man who survived what was meant to destroy him, who kept living with a skill and a purpose, who walked through the city of light as a ghost, unnamed, uncounted, untriumphed. The arch looms over the entire novel. It is beautiful and it is indifferent, like history itself. Around it, the traffic circles, endlessly, without resolution. Remark is telling you something. He is telling you that this story does not end the way you want it to. And then Ravik sees him, hockey, in a Paris restaurant, drinking wine, laughing. The man who destroyed his life is sitting 20 feet away, fat with comfort, enjoying the city that shelters his victims. What Ravik does next is one of the most psychologically complex sequences I have ever read in a novel. He doesn't act immediately. He can't. Not here. Not like this. He watches, he follows, he plans with the same cold precision he applies to surgery. And in this waiting, Remark does something extraordinary. He makes you question the revenge itself. Not its justice. Hawk is monstrous. The revenge is entirely justified. But its cost. Because the man planning this killing is not consumed by rage. He is consumed by something more dangerous. Clarity. He knows exactly what he's doing, exactly why, and exactly what it means. Killing Hake won't bring back the woman he lost, won't restore his name, won't give him papers, won't stop the war that is coming. He knows all of this. He does it anyway. And the act, when it comes, is quiet, almost clinical. There is no triumph, no release, just the thing itself and then the silence after. Ravik feels nothing he expected to feel, and everything he feared he would. September 1st, 1939. Germany invades Poland. France declares war. And the world that sheltered Ravik, imperfectly, reluctantly, but sheltered him nonetheless, begins to close like a fist. Foreign nationals are rounded up. Refugee hotels are raided. Men with no papers. Men whose names are crimes. Men who survived everything. They are taken to internment camps. For their own safety, the officials say. Because in wartime, a stateless German is a potential spy. The cruelty is almost poetic in its timing. Ravik, who spent years surviving, who stayed alive through sheer force of discipline and craft, loses Joan to a bullet from a man she was leaving. A senseless, stupid, final moment of violence, utterly disconnected from history, utterly personal. She dies slowly. He is her doctor at the end. He holds her hand with the same hands that have saved hundreds of lives and taken one. And then he is arrested. Again. He goes. He doesn't fight it. He doesn't plead. He goes. The last pages of this novel are almost unbearable in their restraint. Ravik doesn't rage against what's happening. He simply looks. At Paris through a window. At the other man in the truck with him. Other ghosts, other survivors of the last catastrophe, now caught in the new one. And somewhere over Paris, the Arc de Triomphe stands. Lit up, indifferent, eternal. I want to be careful here. Because it would be easy to walk away from this story and say, well, that was the 1930s. That was Europe. That was then. And I don't want you to do that. Right now, there are an estimated 100 million forcibly displaced people in the world. 100 million. People living in cities where they have no papers, no legal identity, no right to exist in the eyes of the state. People performing essential work that others take credit for. People loving someone they know they might have to leave. People waiting to be arrested again. Remark wrote Ravik in 1945. He is walking every city on earth right now. And that's the thing about great literature. It isn't about its era. It uses its era as a lens. Remarque uses 1939 Paris to ask something permanent. What do we owe to the people we've decided don't officially exist? What does a society say about itself by what it chooses to make invisible? Arc of Triomphe is not a comfortable book. It doesn't want to be. It was written by a man who had lost almost everything and was writing in a country that wasn't his, in a language that wasn't the one he thought in, about a world that was eating itself. And yet, and this is the miracle of it, it is also a book about beauty, about the pleasure of a good meal when you don't know where the next one comes from, about the warmth of another person's body in a cold hotel room, about a city that is genuinely, heartbreakingly gorgeous, even when, especially when, it is about to be destroyed. Ravik loves Paris the way you love something you know you're going to lose, which is, if you think about it, how we love everything. Éric Maria Remarque has said, "The terrible thing about war is that it deprives us of the future." But I think what Arc of Triomphe is really about is the present. The desperate, luminous, borrowed present. The Calvados, the surgery, the woman on the bridge, the small mercies we extend to each other in the dark. Read this book, not because it will make you feel better. It won't. Read it because it will make you see.